It's my very great pleasure and humble honor to be here again in Japan. I have so been looking forward to coming back and seeing you all. And my dreams have come true to be able to come back here and reflect on the last 10 years. The talk I have today, I have actually given the talk myself, sitting down to time it, is about an hour and a half. I will try to keep it a little shorter so there is time for questions. And you have been talking really fast, right?
No, it's okay. You're doing much better than yesterday.
Yes, but Kenji is here to keep me slowed down. And also you, if you hear me getting into my native dialect or starting to speak fast, wave your hand at me or something so I slow down. It is very easy for me to do that. So this is another kind of east of west and west of east talk. And looking at the past 10 years, mainly from the perspective of patterns. But my host here, Takeshi-san, wrote to me and wants to hear about patterns and DCI and object-oriented programming and Scrum and Agile. And, I managed to fit all of those into one talk. So, because, after all, they are all the same thing. So, we're going to cover a lot of ground today, much material to cover, but I want to give you a perspective of some very, very deep concepts that are common across all of these approaches, and a little bit about what I have learned in the past 10 years. Now, I am here to learn too. As you will see from the talk, I believe that a lot of these contributions, and in particular what people call Agile today, which is very popular, as well as patterns, as well as some of the new work that we're doing in architecture, in software architecture, all come from common roots, and these roots lie in the East. And a lot of them will go back to Chinese roots, hundreds or maybe thousands of years ago, and to something called the watercourse way. Pirsig talks about this in his book, this watercourse way, or what's called Zuran in Chinese. I'll have the pictograms up here later. And I want to learn what this is in Japanese. I hope you can recognize these pictograms and tell me what it is in Japanese, because I could not find out. So yeah, covering a lot of ground today. So as an outline, I'll be focusing a lot not only on patterns, but also on another major link from Japan that has made it into software not only in the United States, but around the world, and that is the Toyota way, or what the Americans call lean. So there was a book in 1991 that was published in the United States, and what you know as the Toyota way, or the Toyota production system, or total productivity maintenance, became called lean in the United States, and this is now a very big thing in software worldwide. Agile, I guess, is just becoming really popular here in Japan, and Scrum is becoming popular here in Japan. It's not as big yet as it is in Denmark. But in fact, Scrum comes from the Toyota production system. It's not as much Agile as it is Lean. And what I want to do is look at all of these and put together kind of a family history here, which is what I've done. In talking about, and first of all, I will be talking about Lean and looking at the Toyota production system, but not telling you about it. You know much more about this than I do. But comparing Lean with patterns. What do they have in common? What are their values in common? And why might they have values in common? And then looking more at the software process world today. In most of Europe, and to a large degree in the United States, Scrum and Agile are very, very popular. And I guess they're in a little bit younger stage here in Japan, which is a very, very good thing, because most of what we see in Europe, in the United States, is hype. And what I want to do is give you some things to think about as you are going into Agile or you are going into Lean in software, and ask you to look deeply at these foundations, and we'll talk about them. And then I'll come back to the discussion of patterns, and I'm going to be focusing on a part of patterns that most people do not understand is part of patterns. I mean, the architecture pattern people understand this, but it's something that we miss too often in software. And that is this notion of geometry. And I'm going to look at geometry from several perspectives. One of them is the perspective of product. Patterns are about building a product that has Mumu no Shitsu, the quality without a name. We do not have good English words for this. Beauty is wrong, elegance is wrong, wholeness is wrong. And it's something that can't be named. And that's what we're striving for in patterns, but it relates to this notion of geometry. And then later this afternoon, we will have a workshop by Nakano-san, our esteemed colleague from the pattern community, to explore this a little bit more. You know, what is this about? What is the importance of geometry? And what might that mean to you in software? And as part of this, I will talk about some of my new work in architecture together with a guy named Trygve Rinskog. Trygve has become a dear friend over the years. He is the inventor of Model View Controller. So you may not know who Trygve is, but you probably know what Model View Controller is. And look at that from the perspective of patterns and all these other things. And then, in the end, asking really what are patterns about? What is their focus? And where are we in the industry right now? And what part can you, as the Japanese community, play, again, in taking us into the next decade? Looking a little bit at this little family tree here, I'll do this briefly. If you go way back, there's something which is called, well, there's Taoism. That is a very old collection of thoughts that come out of China. And kind of the central tenet, the central principle of Taoism is something that is called the watercourse way. That is how it is translated into English. The idea is if you take some water to the top of a mountain and you pour it on the mountain, what is the process that the water uses to find its way down the mountain? What is its process? Is it an ISO 9000 standard process? Is it documented? Is it a rational process? Is it unified? What is the process? Well, it's nature. And this pictogram, Zuran, in Chinese, one translation of it would be nature. But it's the natural way that water finds its way. And this is probably one of the deepest roots to all these other things. Alexander is very clearly inspired by these. As I said 10 years ago when I was talking here, that when I first met Alexander, I asked him, you know, is there some relationship between your writing and the Dokyo? And he said, well, yeah, of course. Isn't it obvious? And so he was very strongly influenced by the Dokyo, which in turn has these roots back in this harmonizing with nature, this wa, this being part of the watercourse way. The same is true of the Toyota way. This also has these deep roots in Oriental culture that are very foreign to a Westerner, and that I see are just common sense for you here. When Toyota brings people into their plant, they do not have to teach them about some very basic things. But when Toyota starts up a plant in the United States, there's a lot of things that you take for granted in your culture that Toyota has to teach its employees in the United States. It's these same roots. And in fact, the watercourse way is also one of the roots of Scrum. Scrum is a product management framework that was invented by Jeff Sutherland and co-founded by Ken Schwaber. And Jeff Sutherland was directly inspired by Buddhist roots and by Buddhist meditation. I will not be talking a lot about that here, but in fact it has a direct tie, as well as being very strongly influenced by Lean, by the Toyota way. Alexander's patterns, in turn, gave rise to our patterns in this community. But this link